Well, hi everybody. I'm Dan, one of the bee men in our area, and I'm also serving as president of our local Fort Herod Beekeeping Club. And I wanted to talk to you today about how to get your hives from this one here that I just caught in a swarm catcher 3 days ago to here where you have the two deeps on, and hopefully we'll get some honey yet this first season with the swarm. That is our goal. So we're gonna get into these hives, and I'm gonna show you some things, some management things that I think you can do to help your bees get from step one to this step as quick as possible. Now, you know that there are some variables that we can't change. One variable is the size of the swarm. If you catch a big swarm early, oh my, they're gonna increase quite rapidly. If you catch a smaller swarm, they're going to work much slower. Obviously, they don't have near as many workers to be working in the same time frame. Also, the other variable that we have no control over is the amount of nectar that we're going to have available in June and July. There's plenty out there now, but when these bees really are ready to start making honey for you in the first super, that's going to normally be around the middle of June through July. At least that's our goal. And if we have a good clover season, you should be able to harvest at least one super full of honey from a swarm that you catch this spring. That's always been my goal. You know, that's about 30 pounds or 10 quarts of honey. And if we can get that from a swarm that we caught this year, that offsets the cost of all this already almost. And so we go into the winter about even. So let's look into a few hives and see what we can do to help. If you're a beekeeper, you know that this spring has been an awesome spring for catching swarms if you want to catch swarms, because they've really swarmed a lot. I know my bee yards have swarmed a lot, and if you're wanting honey, it's a frustrating spring because you'd rather those bees stay in your hives and have the attitude of making honey instead of having the attitude of leaving home. And so if you've caught some swarms and you're looking to really manage them properly, then let's look at what we can do. Here's a smoking tip for you. If you're a beekeeper, you know this smoker comes in handy. You can tell I've used this one a lot, and I like this one. I've found out several years ago that you can use the cardboard type egg cartons to make some really good bee smoke. It seems like it has a calming effect on them more than some other things. And so let me show you how this is done. It's real easy. Just take your egg carton, squeeze it and twist it in half right there like that, so you have those edges there. About a half of a carton will last about 15 to 20 minutes. So I have one of these. It's a real windy day, so let's see how hard it's going to be to light this thing. I have one of these torch lighters, and that helps a little bit on a windy day. What we want to do is get the end of this carton burning really good. A lot of times I think we don't burn our material good enough first before we stuff it down in the smoker, and then it goes out on us real easy. So the key is to get that going good. When it's going good, just stick it down in there like that. Give it a few puffs yet to get that fire going a little bit longer. We're getting some smoke. You can stick that on down in there like that and close the lid, let the fire go out, and you don't have big volumes of smoke, but you've got enough to do mostly of what you want to do. And then after about 15 to 20 minutes, you can take this other one and stuff it down in there, and it goes for another 15 to 20 minutes. Or when I'm serious about staying in my bee yard for a while, after that burns down, I'll put some burlap on top of that, and that stuff works really good too. So I use a combination of egg cartons for short term, and then egg cartons and burlap if I'm going to be in there for a half an hour or longer or so. So let's go look at some hives. Now keep in mind that this hive here that I've caught about a week ago doesn't have any brood in it yet. So all the workers are busy carrying in nectar, and so they can devote almost 100% of their time to building comb and putting honey in here. See, the queen hasn't started laying yet. A lot of times you'll have a maiden queen. It may be 2 or 3 weeks before she lays. And so the first 2 weeks after you catch a swarm is critical about building up the strength of your colony. within about 3 weeks, a lot of your worker bees that came with your swarm have died, and you don't have any new bees that have come along yet that are old enough to do field work. And so it really declines in how fast they can build themselves up after about 3 weeks until the new brood is old enough to help them. So you've got about 2 weeks that you want to help these bees get off to a good start. And so let me show you a couple things. We've got our smoker going, and I've not been doing much with it, so it's about to run out here, but we're going to get it going again. We're going to smoke the entrance here just a little bit. Like I said, these have been in here for about 1 week. Let's see what they've done. Now, I have not fed these. Some people like to feed their bees, but when the honeysuckle are blooming, they won't hardly eat, do much with sugar syrup. This was about a medium-sized swarm. And I did not catch this one in a swarm catcher. If Jessica can zoom in here a little bit, you'll see that they're working more in the center. That's because this frame and this frame was some drawn comb that I had, and so obviously they're going to start there. If this would have been from a swarm catcher, I always had my drawn comb on one side next to the hole for the swarm catcher. But you can see that they're going to work from the center out. Bees tend to like to work from the center out, and so I want to show you let's see what they've done so far with some of these frames. I have black foundation in here if you're wondering why it looks so dark. Now, like I said, these have been in here only about a week and they're still clinging a lot. See that on the bottom there? That they do that a lot when they're drawing out comb. And they're already starting to draw that out some. But they don't have it drawn out very far yet, okay? And I'm going to put this one down to the side so we have some room to work. The queen probably hasn't started laying yet. It takes even an adult queen, it's going to take her about a week before she starts laying. So don't expect to see eggs right away. But there's a lot of honey in this one. Like I said, they're interested in making honey stores and drawing out comb. So you see that mostly honey there, and this is an old comb that I use. I know it's ugly, but that's what draws them into a hive. That's what keeps them there. Now, I want to talk to you about frame management, okay? Now, this hive is not ready to have me move frames around yet because they don't have a lot drawn out yet. It takes about 2 weeks, and they've only been in there 1 week. So we're not going to move frames around. We're just looking to see what they've done. And I'm not even going to look for the queen. This is my first check of this hive since I put them in here. And I'm not going to bother them that much. It looks like they're doing good. And I'm not going to move frames around. But we're going to go to a hive next that has been in there longer, and you're going to see how it's important for me to take some of the frames from the outside here and put them in between the frames they've already drawn out to entice them to draw those out too. So let's look at another hive. Okay, let's look in this one. And I bet you're wondering why I have a stick in here with some newspaper hanging out. Well, those of you that are beekeepers, if you see some newspaper, you know that I've joined 2 swarms together. I've caught so many swarms that I'm actually joining 2 swarms together to speed things up. I have plenty of swarms and I don't need any more hives, and so I've joined 1 swarm down here with another swarm, and of course when I joined them together I had to leave a little bit of room here for the upper hive to come and go until they chew through the newspaper. Let's look inside and see what we've got. This swarm has been in this hive for a couple weeks now, and it was a smaller swarm. That's why I joined it with this stronger one on the bottom. If you keep those real small swarms, you're not going to get much out of them the first season. Since I've split them together, the majority of the bees are now in the bottom section, but I can still show you what I'm talking about here. If you'll zero in here, Jessica, you'll see that frame 1, 2, 3, and 4 are all drawn. And then when you get over here, you can see they have not worked over here yet. What I want them to do is I want them to work all the way across. And so one of the ways you do after about a week and a half to 2 weeks of your swarm is you want to move some frames around. So what I'll do is I'll take, maybe it looks like I might need 1, 2, I need about 3 frames. So I'll take one out, lay it over here. 2 out. And 3 out. Okay, Jessica, can you come around here and zoom in down there and see the bottom one? One rule of thumb is never put your second deep on until the bottom one is full. And you can look down in there and see that the bottom is full. And that's why, if this were just one strong swarm, that's why you should have put the second one on. So let's pretend this is just one strong swarm. So after they get the bottom part all filled out, there's 10 frames in there. What I would do is I would bring one of those frames that are full of brood, and I would bring them up into this second hive body and put it right in the middle. That entices them to come on up. I did not do that with this one because I've joined 2 swarms together. But keep that in mind when you're just dealing with one swarm. You do not put the second box on until the first box is pretty well full after you've moved these frames around like I'm going to show you. Okay, so now I'm going to smoke these again. They're starting to get a little bit of anxiousness. As you can see, they've not worked these yet. Like I said, this was a small swarm and they needed some help. Oh, they would have enough by winter, but I'm a honey man and I want them to make me some honey before winter. So we'll just move all these over until we find bees. Okay, so they've started to draw the 5th one out, but they've got 4 frames here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this one and move it over. Now we're also going to inspect to see if we have any eggs here yet. Now remember, this is a young one here that probably has a maiden queen because it was a small swarm, so I'm not expecting to see any sealed brood yet. Nope, just honey and pollen there. And the queen from below hasn't had a chance to come up yet. Now, since you may wonder, how can I do that? There's a queen in both. Well, they'll get rid of one of the queens. All right, so now both of these have drawn comb. So now I'm going to take one of these that's not drawn out and I'm going to put it right down in between 2 combs that are drawn out. And I'll scoot this one over. And what that does is, if there's a one that's not drawn in between there, they will more quickly fill that out so the queen can lay. That's the idea, is to get the bees to move across. When I'm done, I will have bees this wide now instead of just this wide. So now I'm going to take another frame. I'm going to put it in between the next 2. This is managing your frames to get them growing as quickly as possible. You don't have to do this, but if you're wanting honey, you've got to get them growing as fast as possible. So I have one more, and I'll slide it in there. Okay, in about 2 weeks, a week and a half to 2 weeks, depending on the nectar flow, I'll come back in here, and I still have 3 frames here that's not drawn out. So I'll move them in between there, and then within a couple weeks from that, you'll be adding a super. So, just to recap, you'll start out with your swarm in 1 deep. When they get all those filled, after you rotate the comb a couple frames like I did on the first one, there's 10 frames down there to start out with. When they're all pretty well full, you'll take a frame out of the middle one, bring it up and put it in your second brood, put it right in the middle, and then have your other frames in there. In a couple weeks, you'll come back and then you'll want to take the ones from the outside and put in the middle between the ones they've drawn out to expand them all the way out to the edges. Do not put supers on your new swarms until they have filled up their area really well. People make the mistake of wanting to add them on too fast, and if these are not filled out and you add another one on, they'll go from here and go on up and never go over here and finish filling these out. Bees like to work up, not across. So you've got to force them to fill this all the way across first before you put a super on. So I feel like probably in about 2 to 3 weeks, that'll be about well, around the middle of June, these will be ready for their super. And then they have June and July. I feel like in a good year, Jessica, we're gonna get some honey from this hive. This second hive here, it's about the same. You can see there's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're a little bit stronger, but there's nothing over here. So we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna take these frames out and put them in between the frames that they've already filled out. You don't want to do that until they have some brood or some honey in there. You want to wait till they have them pretty well filled out before you move those over. So let's see if we can get a couple of these out and then move them over. I have yellow foundation on these. I like to use Plasticell for my deeps because they tend to hold up better. So again, we have 3 frames here that they've not done anything with yet, so we're going to put them in between the ones they've already started on. Since I only have 3 left, then I'm going to scoot some of these over and get to where they've got more of the comb drawn out. Now this one already has some brood in this one, so let me show you what that looks like. We have a good queen in here. Look how even of a brood pattern we have on that. So yeah, for a swarm that I caught, that looks pretty good, huh? They've got honey in there, some of it's already capped, so they're doing really good. So I'm gonna scoot this over and I'm gonna put these ones with only foundation right in the middle of their brood nest, and they'll really be quick to draw those out. So I'll put that one there. I'll scoot the next one over. We won't take the time to look for the queen, but she's doing a good job. That's uncapped brood mostly there. Well, I see the queen. Let's get her out and look at her. She may get away before I get her out. Yeah, she saw me coming and took off. I saw her as I looked down in there. She may be on this side. Let's see. Do you see her, Jessica?
I'm not seeing her.
Well, anyway, she's been doing a good job. So we're going to slide another one in between these two. Scoot that over. And we'll put this last one that's not been drawn out right there. This is one I caught in a swarm catcher. That's why they were mostly over on this side. Boy, you wait now. In about a week or so, I'll come back and they'll have those drawn out. I'll be putting a super on there within a week and a half, I bet. Every once in a while you catch a really big swarm, and I just wanted to introduce you to this one here. I caught this swarm let's see, probably be about the 10th of April. So they've been in this hive only about, what, a month and a week, and look how much they had advanced. It was such a strong swarm that they wouldn't hardly fit all in my one deep, and within 3 days I was putting the second deep on, and within 2 weeks after I had caught the swarm, they had already filled both of those up, and I've got a super on there. And I don't want to get in there now, but I just bet they've got a good start on that super already. And this is a swarm I caught just about 5 weeks ago. That's because it was so huge, it makes such quick advances. And then I've got this hive here, right beside here, that had a small swarm, and they're just kind of lollygagging around. They'll be all right, but they probably won't make me any honey. So if you can get those big swarms, great. And I want to encourage some of you all, if you have extra swarms coming, to join 2 swarms together, especially if they're smaller, and you would be as amazed at how much faster 2 small swarms can increase compared to those same 2 small swarms separate having to build up themselves. Thank you.